All right, the August
Did you hear me?
14th, 2018 regular meeting of the Mentor Exempted Village Board of Education is called to order. This meeting is being held in accordance with Section 3313.15 of the Ohio Revised Code. Mr. Wilson, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Buckley?
Present.
Ms. Jisling?
Present.
Mrs. Roberts?
Here.
Mr. Tuttle?
Present.
Mrs. Briner?
Here. I will entertain a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
And then
He's
we're going
happy
to go
because
next
he's
door.
retired now.
All right, we will
Tom's
return.
all happy because
Thank
he's
you.
retired now.
All right, we're back in session, and we're going to recess to go into a special meeting for our budget hearing for special education. Mr. Wilson, please call the roll.
Mr. Buckley? He's present. Ms. Jisling?
Present.
Mrs. Roberts?
Here.
Mr. Tuttle?
Here.
Mrs. Briner?
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That sounded good.
Yes, and if I may, our school district receives several different types of federal funding. Some are called entitlement grants based on the number of students with qualifying needs, whether it's students with certain learning disabilities or economically disadvantaged students. Some are competitive based where you actually have to write a grant and the merits are considered and funds are awarded. One of the provisions of receiving federal funds is every year the Board of Education must give the public an opportunity to pass judgment on the proposed distribution of the funds to support the programs for the various federal funding, whether it's Title I, which is focused on economically disadvantaged students, or the IDEA fund for special needs students, or the early childhood preschool budget. We have distributed and posted on our website the budgets for each of those federal funding programs that we receive. The budgets are structured very similarly to past years. We're sensitive, and the Student Services Department does a wonderful job of making sure we're in compliance and directing the funds to their intended use throughout the district. So this is an opportunity for the board or any members of the community that has a question on the budgets to pose those to us. If not, the final budgets will be adopted as part of our annual budget resolution in September.
Okay, questions? We don't need a vote on it, do we?
No,
Okay.
not tonight. So if there's no comments or questions, we now are in compliance with the federal regulations.
All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
And then we'll come out of recess at 7 to go back to our regular meeting.
So we're adjourned until 7 o'clock. We're back into regular session. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would like to welcome everyone to the August 14th, 2018 regular meeting of the Mentor Exempted Village Board of Education. Prior to this evening, each board member has received for their review and consideration the agenda and materials associated with each agenda item for the board's approval via the district's paperless Board of Education agenda system, Board Docs. The public can access the agenda through the school district's website. The agenda is available through the district's website for public viewing the Sunday prior to the board meeting. Board members have the opportunity to call the superintendent and chief financial officer for information concerning agenda items and to request, if needed, additional information. There are 2 places on the agenda when the board entertains comments from the community. The first hearing of the public is dedicated to those who wish to address the board on agenda items only. The second hearing of the public is dedicated to those who wish to address the board on any subject, whether it is an item on the agenda or another issue. When addressing the board, please state your name. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please address questions to the president. This meeting is being televised on a delayed basis and will be shown on Spectrum Cable Channel 1026 in Mentor and Channel 1025 in Mentor on the Lake. This meeting is also being videotaped and will be shown on our YouTube channel, Cardinal TV, Mentor, Ohio. Please place your mobile telephones on silent mode during the meeting. And we will have approval of minutes, first July 10th, 2018, regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Abstain.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes. And our special board meeting on July 23rd, 2018.
So moved?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes. Now we'll have hearing of the public on agenda items only.
Good evening. I'm Cindy Langlier. I'm the president of Mentor Teachers Association. School board members, Mr. Porter, Mr. Wilson. Nice to see you guys again. With MTA, one of our goals that we've been focusing on over the last couple of years is to improve our visibility in the community and our interactions with the community. Some of the things we've done, we always participate in the parade with administration, and this year we're going to do it jointly instead of separate entities, one after the other. We're just going to represent the schools. We've sponsored sports teams. We bought one of the backfield signs at Garfield Park. And something we came up with at our retreat this summer was to make what we noticed is there's a lot of yard signs, and a lot of them are sports. My kids in the football team, my kids on the softball team, some of them are library. We have a lot of library champions in the community. But we wanted to welcome kids back to school and brand it, of course, with our name. So we came up with these yard signs, and I believe maybe a couple of you got them this morning at an opening meeting, but we wanted to make sure you all had copies of them. So we ran a contest with our members, and our members designed the signs, and we had them made up. And we just wanted a positive message for kids going back to school. So just a little gift. Thank you. Oh, this is Mary Sellers. I'm sorry. She is the elementary co-chair.
Mr. Buckley and I got a chance to see the preview this morning and think it's a wonderful idea.
That's great.
They are. Thank you. I saw them around the community on my travels today. I thought they were neat. I said, where did they come from?
You saw them already?
Yeah, I did on the way here. I love it.
Isn't it nice?
Thank you so much.
I think it's such a great idea. Thanks, MTA.
Sure. Thank you.
I love it.
I have one in my office.
Thank you.
I do.
And for those of you who haven't seen, there's a couple different designs.
Okay.
This year's going to be super, welcome back to school. And the other one is, there's 2 variations of this, believe you can, because we do.
That's great.
You.
I love it.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Anyone else? Okay, we will move on to superintendent's report and recommendations. Mr. Porter.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I have the following recommendations listed under the consent agenda and recommend approval of items 6A1 through 6A5.
Mr. Porter, I had a concern about the field trip request to Hawaii. Top 25 is considering a trip, and while I 100% support our students having the opportunity to travel together, to perform together, I have some concerns just about the distance that they'd be going and the relative cost of that being so much farther than something in the continental U.S. or Canada. As I understand it, they'll have some years that they'll have less ambitious trips, some more so. So it's possible that a student who's participated, by luck of the draw, may not be a member when the great trip happens and something more modest happens the year they are participating. I have concerns that if we have some seniors, they're going to be going after they've graduated, which adds a little complexity. Not that I think that there would be a real problem with that, but those students are ready to go off to college in many cases. You're running into maybe a battle between college costs and then this lovely trip. So I'd love to have more information about it. Even though they're going for a week, by the time you have the 2 travel days, a lot of that adjustment of jet lag and so on, it is different than going someplace that's not quite as far. So those are just the concerns that I had when I saw it. I care about our students, and I don't want undue pressure on them to do the fundraising or their parents to do that as well. It's a lot of hours of car washes and Indians game concession stands. And having done that, when my own middle son was in top 25, and it was a tremendous experience and so valuable. So it's not that I don't appreciate the quality of that experience or the opportunity of that. I just feel like it's so far. Take a look at the map. Hawaii is way out there into the Pacific. That extra few hours of travel time from the West Coast. So that was just my thinking.
Any other comments?
So what is it you're suggesting, Ginny? Table it, or?
Well, I don't want to hold them up for planning. I guess if I had to make a decision, if it was my decision alone to make, I'd say please choose a destination that's within the continental United States or Canada, just because of the variables. If a student got sick or had a problem, they are so far from home. It makes it that much more difficult for us to do anything to remedy the situation. So I guess what I'm suggesting is maybe a discussion on the relative merits. If I'm the only one that thinks that's a little troubling or worrisome, I would like to know what the pattern of those more ambitious trips might be. I would like to see any student who participated in top 25, whatever year he or she was in, whether it's all 4 years or just 1 year, that the years that they were participants, they'd have an opportunity to travel with their the group and to perform wherever it is. And I think that would be easier to accomplish if you didn't have a more ambitious trip 1 year and then something smaller other years. Because I know that they do. I'm not sure what the cost is for their costumes and other things that are part of their participation, if that's a responsibility of the student to pay for their costumes, dancing shoes, and so on. That runs up into some significant costs for families. I certainly wouldn't want anybody to not be able to participate because they didn't have the discretionary dollars in their household budget to do that, or that they couldn't. They were tied up doing a lot of fundraising because of that need to raise the money. So those are just my concerns.
Are you requesting that we table this until we receive more information?
I I guess I would say that, yes, to find out what the pattern is, what the cost for their regular participation is for the group, the performing group. And what's the rationale? Yeah, and why they would go there. Well, they do have a nice, I know that there are some culturally wonderful opportunities, and to see the Arizona. I mean, there's some lovely things. I don't have any reason to think that wouldn't be a great trip. I just don't, I'm not sold on the idea that that's the best arrangement for all students, whatever year they participate.
I believe that they've gone to Hawaii in the past.
They have, but it's not recent, I don't
Right.
believe. But I think prior to 9/11, our students traveled significantly farther. With Ted Hieronymus those years, those students went farther to more glamorous locations.
Even in Europe.
Yeah,
Right.
they did all, they went on a cruise one year.
But I believe they've gone to Hawaii, like even in the last 10 to 15 years.
Possible. So I'm just throwing that out as a consideration, and I may be an outlier when it comes to looking at those things that way. And if everybody else, once we have the information, if you feel comfortable, that would be different. But I just want what's best for our students overall. And I know that everyone else does as well. I'm not saying that they don't. But it's a big trip, and it's an expensive trip.
So what's the possibility of getting 100% participation from the choir? Is it 100%, 80%?
From the top 25, my understanding is everybody would be able to do this. They have an aggressive fundraising plan, and they are prepared to then fund individually what they, to make up the difference for whatever can't be fundraised for it. So that was one of my natural questions when the trip was proposed and the paperwork came across my desk. I had some of the same questions that Ms. Gisling had. Between the fundraising plan and thoughtfulness with that, the depth of plan and just the work they had done to prepare was certainly impressive. The length, the distance of the trip is, it would be similar to the World Travelers Club, which, went out to, I believe it was Italy and France this past year. But in this particular case, while the distance might be similar, they would at least still be in the United States. So I did have some of the same questions in my own research on the trip.
I think the World Travelers Club, those participants probably know the cost in advance, and those that have been now 2 years in the top 25, suddenly now their senior year becomes, and I hate for it, again, I'm not objecting to it, but it becomes exclusionary to some of the students, because what's our student population today on new or free reduced lunches? Even if 3 can't go or 3 feel the bite, that's pretty rough.
My understanding is that, I was led to believe that all the students would be able to go between the fundraising and their ability to fill in the gap. What I can't answer, and I think it's part of Ms. Jessling's question, is, what would that mean for future trips that would be, of this nature?
Yeah.
That I couldn't, we couldn't project exactly.
Yeah, trying to top prior year programs. Yeah.
Yeah, what they did back in the 60s and 70s was much different, even in 80s into the 90s. So that they have a long history, and I know they're wonderful students and supportive parents. It seems so far to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know one student who intentionally joined Top 25 because this individual knew they were going to, I believe it was London, maybe around 1990 it was. Familiar with the family and the young man, and that's why he joined.
Sure. Well, that's what happens with marching band when it's a Disney year.
Yeah. So,
Suddenly the band goes, oof.
Well, and travel, I think, is a wonderful experience for kids. I don't have any objection to travel. It's just, I'd rather see them go on a nice trip within the continental
Yeah.
U.S. each year. I think they
Well,
have, generally speaking.
As is the case for all the trips when our students take a trip, how safe is it for them? How many chaperones? How invested are the chaperones for the safety of the students? All it takes is one student, one set of parents to forget their responsibility in not being accountable for his or her those that they chaperone. Because certainly not everybody, every 25 of the students are going to take mom and dad, are they? Bill?
No, my understanding is there would be 10 adult chaperones, 8 would be volunteers, and 2 would be sort of so-called paid, their trips paid for, if you will.
And how many students altogether?
My understanding is 25.
It's just 25. I thought they usually had a little with
They're
their,
sticking to 25 now.
okay, and the band kids don't go with them? Because they always have the
kids can't.
musicians who, okay. So just thought I would throw it out there, and
Good discussion.
Any other comments or concerns? How do we want to move forward with this issue?
If we table it for a month, does that give them enough time to make arrangements, or is that going to just put a damper on everything?
I don't know the specifics on that. I know they, you know, they have the prices, estimate, the one price they cannot estimate right now would be the airfare. The airfare is that ever-changing thing that can go up and down
Right.
more dramatically than probably any other factor for the trip.
Well, is the process to table it or to vote yea or nay on this? I mean,
At this point, there's been no motion or second.
Okay.
It would
Okay.
be whether or not Bill wants to withdraw this from the consent agenda or to,
What I would do is withdraw, and if there are some additional questions that I can answer, you know, in the interim, we can attempt to do that and bring it back for consideration at the October regular board meeting.
September.
September.
meeting.
Or, I'm sorry, September.
so who amongst us wants to have it tabled?
So that would just be me, I think.
I'm okay moving forward with the vote on it, if anybody else is.
If everybody else is, there's no reason to table it or to get more information if the other 4 are comfortable moving forward.
I think we
What
all.
What
Go
other
ahead.
information would we need to make a decision?
So I would just be looking at the mix of freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, and what trips those students get to take on an average year versus something that's a special trip like this one. That would be the only thing that I had, that really I don't know. And what their cost is for their regular participation with their costumes and shoes and such.
Well, what would be the benchmark if the cost is $4,000? Is that something we'd say, no, let's not do it?
That's what I was
Let's not
going to say. Will we
approve.
do the information?
Yeah, I mean, what are we going to do with the information once we get it?
I know they have an
Is there a
extremely-
possibility we're going to say no?
Would we potentially cancel this trip?
What would cause us to say no, basically?
Well,
Bill answered my questions. What I had in my mind, Bill answered me.
But I think Mrs. Jessling's point, though, about equal opportunities over the 4 years is something that should be looked at.
I would be willing to sort of develop a process with the top 25 to look at the equity piece and also try to take into account anything that we would need to for students who may have a harder ability to pay. So I'd be happy to, you know, begin a
And
process.
if we look at the total cost of a trip to Hawaii as opposed to, let's say, a trip to even San Francisco or where, another city that they might be going to perform and sightsee and so on, is this 10% more, 50%, you know, just kind of a relative comparison?
Sophie does the research, would that be okay?
Yeah, and
They're being
I
researched.
understand that I may be the only one
What
who's an
percent?
outlier on this, and I completely accept that, you know. I just wanted to throw those questions open, just so that we're, you know, trying to make the best decision for our total.
Well, here's where I'm at on that. There are adults who have made the decision to move forward with this. I would imagine it was not a small group of parents who put this together without some consensus of the adults and the students. I trust that. I trust Bill has done what is necessary to understand what they're doing. And do we want to say, well, we don't want to set a bar this high that next year we got to go higher? Again, we have adults who have children here, and their 18-year-old children, or 17, they know what's best for them or what they want their children to do. It's a tremendous experience. If we extend it out another month, does that slow their fundraising ability? Do we give them a sense of, I don't think you've done a good job in evaluating what is best for your children and your group? Yeah, it's a real nice trip. I've dreamt of going to Hawaii, but you know what? My wife tells me, no, we're not flying to Hawaii.
Right.
How about a boat? No, we're not going on a boat either. So, and that's between two adults who, we could do it if we wanted to in a heartbeat, but she says no. So we've had parents who have said yes to it. Now, maybe 24 out of 25 feel real good about it. One says, okay, we'll go along with it because I want Johnny and Jane to have that experience. She'll never have it again. He will never have that opportunity again.
That's true.
So who are we to say right now, those parents didn't do a good job of evaluating what they want to know?
I don't have any doubt that the parents did a good job of finding a quality tour company and all those other things. I'm just concerned about those other issues of equity across the years that students participate.
Yeah, well, that happens. I mean, what are we going to do? We have,
But I would be willing to look at that to at least try to gauge, some sort of a range or formula that, and I would work with the principal and the director to try to come up with something that hopefully would make sense. If that's acceptable.
As long as it doesn't, no decision today, and waiting another month disqualifies their opportunity to go. I wouldn't, I think, you'd have to make a decision promptly. They obviously took the time to prepare the presentation of materials of what they want to do, so I'm open to what everybody else thinks as well.
I'm sorry,
So
respectfully disagree.
I think
Have
we
a
all,
vote, yes or no?
I think we're all in agreement that there are some concerns here. Can we agree that we pass these suggestions on to Mr. Porter for further discussion and consideration in the future and move forward with allowing this trip to go forward?
So leaving the decision, the final decision to Mr. Porter, so we would agree conditionally to approve it, and then if he's satisfied that it makes sense, given everything else, then he would make the final decision.
Are you okay with that?
I would be fine.
Is that the right thing
We
to
will
do?
need to modify the agenda item, then. This is not a conditional approval that was presented.
It's not right.
That's the board's intent and the superintendent's recommendation. We can adjust the language, but that's not how this agenda recommendation reads.
Mr. Superintendent, do you want that responsibility to have the final vote on that?
I would like to keep the recommendation as it is, but with the understanding that I will evaluate the equity piece, the cost piece, continue to work on a formula or a range that makes sense so that we're mindful of these sorts of things going forward.
That would be fine, absolutely.
So good.
Everyone good with that?
So we're going to vote on it.
We're
Yes,
going to
sure.
vote.
My senior class went to Hawaii, and we had no chaperones. Imagine that. Back in the day.
Moving right along.
I read my
We're ready to go to Buffalo.
I thought I heard Tom make a motion. I need a motion in a second.
All right, so we had a motion from Mr. Tuttle. Do we have a second?
Second.
And please call the roll.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Thank you. Madam President and members of the board, this evening we are pleased to recognize several staff members who are being honored for their commitment to their schools and their students. We will begin with our Excellence in Teaching Award winners. Mr. Buckley, will you please join me at the podium? This award recognizes certified staff members who demonstrate exemplary qualities in their profession and are involved in activities which reflect professional commitment. This evening's 4 recipients represent the best at Mentor Schools. It is our pleasure to honor the winners of the 2018 Excellence in Teaching Award. And we would ask, after we call your name and read a quick summary, if you would come up and receive your award from Mr. Buckley, and then cross the front here and shake hands with our board members, please. Bethany Parker from Fairfax. Bethany is a strong and consistent positive force who works tirelessly to enhance her teaching to best impact the students in her care. Jennifer Sanford from Orchard Hollow. Jennifer demonstrates passion for learning, for her students, for her colleagues, and for life in general. She is thorough, efficient, compassionate, and dedicated. Jennifer Sanford. From Lake Elementary, Lisa Sterner. Lisa displays exceptional teamwork with all staff, and she has an intense drive to be an outstanding educator who works hard to ensure all of her students succeed. Lisa Sterner. From Shore Middle School, Ron Wood. Ron is a leader and a dedicated educator who shows he is always willing to try new and innovative ideas. Ron Wood.
Thanks for all the great things you do.
Madam President and members of the board, nominations are also collected every year for the Outstanding Service Award. To be selected for this award, a nominee must demonstrate enthusiasm for his or her responsibilities, a commitment to Mentor Schools, and have the respect of their colleagues, parents, and students. The 6 winners selected this year fit that criteria perfectly. It is our pleasure to honor the winners of the 2018 Outstanding Service Award. Again, if you would please come up, accept your award from Mr. Buckley, and shake the hands of the remaining board members. First up, Rick Hungerford. Rick is more than a custodian at Shore Middle School. He is a great ambassador for the building. He cares about the building, the staff, and the students, which is evident in his meticulous attention to detail in his work. Rick Hungerford. Wendy Kraft. As a classroom assistant, Wendy is very motivated, shows initiative, and is a wonderful resource and asset to all of the staff at Bellflower Elementary. Wendy Kraft. From the Treasurer's Office, Nancy Leonard. In her role as Accounts Receivable Supervisor, Nancy has a kind, positive attitude and is always willing to help the public and her coworkers whenever she can. Nancy Leonard. Cindy Lutheran. As a classroom assistant at Mentor High School, Cindy works with all staff members at some point and is highly valued for her support, knowledge, and positive attitude, and is an integral member of the Mentor High School community. Cindy Lutheran. Teresa Sherry. Teresa is a warm, cheerful, and enthusiastic presence at Lake Elementary as she greets students every morning as they enter the building. She models building expectations and is a positive role model for all students in her role as a classroom assistant. Teresa Sherry. Don Uline. Don is a professional and dedicated custodian who takes tremendous pride in his work and is constantly looking for better ways to be more effective and efficient. His work has a direct influence on the overall operation and success of Brentmore Elementary and now Ridge Elementary. Don Uline.
Thanks for all your great work.
Madam President and members of the board, this year, for the first time ever, we will be recognizing very important groups for their excellence in team collaboration. To be selected for this award, the team members must demonstrate enthusiasm for their responsibilities and a strong commitment to the school system. The team must also be respected by colleagues, parents, and students and demonstrate strong collaborative skills. We are recognizing tonight Belle Flowers, first grade PLC, Janet DeToda, Danielle Cordero, Amy Pasco, and Ashley Howe. This enthusiastic team of teachers consistently collaborates on instructional material and delivery to ensure consistency for their students. Each with their own strengths, they complement each other very nicely. They take full advantage of all resources available to them and use the information to enhance their skills and methods, always keeping in mind the best interest of their students. Belle Flowers, first grade PLC. Come on up.
Thanks for all you do.
Great job, thank you.
Thanks for all you do.
Great job, thank
You guys are great. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all you do.
The second group is our classified staff from Mentor High School, the Cardinal Lab team, made up of Tammy Leomas, Wendy McMahon, Valerie Freeman, Emily Horn. This outstanding team works with an exceptional group of students to teach them skills to help them become successful, employable adults once they leave high school. They also serve as liaisons for our program, building and maintaining partnerships with community members and businesses while navigating how to teach appropriate work behaviors necessary for their futures. Would the Cardinal Lab team please come forward?
That's easy for me.
You guys are great. Thank you for all you do. Thanks for all you do. Thank you. You guys are great. Thank you for all you do. Good job. Thanks for all you do.
Great job, thank you.
And the third group is our classified staff from Memorial Middle School MD Units team, made up of Anna Hill, Aaron Kuzmiak, Tina Sullivan. This energetic team consistently sticks together to ensure everything runs smoothly and safely in the MD classrooms and throughout the building at Memorial Middle School. No day is ever the same, and they handle each day and situation with immeasurable zeal and enthusiasm. They clearly care for their students and enjoy their jobs. Would the MD Units team please come forward?
Is this a cue? To try.
Congratulations to all of our award winners. At this time, I would like to invite Mrs. Burnett to the podium to join Mr. Buckley to recognize our newly designated master teachers.
You can sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Porter and Mr. Wilson, a master teacher demonstrates excellence inside and outside of the classroom through consistent leadership and focused collaboration to maximize student learning. A master teacher strives for distinguished teaching and continued professional growth as specified by the Ohio Standards for the Teaching Profession. To be designated as a master teacher in Ohio, eligible educators must clearly demonstrate each of the following criteria as described in the Ohio Standards for the Teaching Profession. Master's teachers will receive exemplary scores in 4 out of the 5 areas on the scoring guide. 1, consistent leadership. 2, focused collaboration. 3, distinguished teaching on focus on students and environment. 4, distinguished teaching, focus on content, instruction, and assessment. And the 5th area, continued professional growth. This year, we are honored to have 3 master teachers who have received their designation of master teacher. May I please have Molly Gregg, Hillary Hoos, and Laura Melkerson up by the podium, please? Miss Molly Gregg is an intervention specialist at Mentor High School. Miss Hillary Hoos is our transition coordinator at Mentor High School. And Miss Laura Melkerson is a first grade teacher previously at Garfield Elementary, now at Ridge Elementary this year. Congratulations to the 3 of you. Very proud.
Thanks for all you do. Thank you for all you do.
Congratulations.
Thanks for all you do.
Very cool, thank you. Congrats.
Thank you, Mrs. Burnett and Mr. Buckley. Madam President and members of the board, I am recommending approval of the MOU between the Mentor Board of Education and the Mentor Teachers Association.
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to invite Mr. Jim McMahon, our Assistant Principal at Mentor High School, to the podium for a brief AP test performance update presentation.
Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Porter and Mr. Wilson, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to share some information regarding our advanced placement program here at the high school. In my role as assistant principal, I have served as the AP coordinator for 5 years, and during this time we've been able to amass a significant amount of trend data regarding our building performance over time. We've been able to track our building progress, both from an individual standpoint and in relation to other high schools in the state of Ohio and across the nation. We have a great deal of positive news to share with you regarding our advanced placement program in the following slides that we'll briefly discuss. To provide some context, the advanced placement program is managed by the College Board, an organization that also manages the SAT and the PSAT programs. The College Board is a major entity in the college application process, and students can acquire college credit by taking AP exams during their high school career. Exams are scored between 1 and 5, with 5 being the highest score a student can achieve. The cost of an exam is these days about $95, which is a significant financial outlay for a family. But depending on the college, students can receive academic credit for introductory courses at the collegiate level, which can translate into a savings of several $1,000s in college tuition. At Mentor here, we currently offer over 20 AP courses to students starting in their sophomore year, and our highest performing students will take a number of AP courses during their time at the high school. It is the most rigorous academic program high school students can enter, and colleges look to attract students who have challenged themselves in high school. Our first slide illustrates the number of Mentor High School students who have taken AP exams each school year. We have tracking data beginning in 2011 up through this just completed school year. In 2011, 289 students took AP exams. This past year, we had 407 students take an exam. And as you can see, there's a pretty positive trend line going up over the last number of years. We've been able to achieve this growth during a time period of declining student enrollment in the district, as we all know, as well as the growth of the College Credit Plus program, which tends to siphon students out of a school's AP program. Our second slide here indicates the total number of exams taken by students at the high school each school year. And I apologize for the small numbers there, but the years are on the bottom axis, and then going up is the number of exams taken total. We have almost doubled our performance in this category since 2011. In that year, 477 exams were given at the high school. This past May, 942 exams were administered. Our efforts to expand our AP program received formal recognition from the College Board in 2015 as we were named to the 5th Annual AP Honor Roll. This award recognizes high schools for expanding opportunity and improving performance of AP students. This slide provides important data regarding how our AP students are performing relative to other AP students throughout Ohio and nationally and internationally. As we discussed, AP exams are scored on a scale of 1 to 5, with 3 being the score used by most colleges to grant college credit. This slide tracks the percentage of AP students scoring 3 or higher on exams. Mentor is the red line on this graph. The state average is tracked in blue, while the national and international average appears in yellow. We've consistently outperformed the state and national averages, but as you can see, since 2015, we have enjoyed a significant upward trend. This past year, 84% of exams taken by Mentor students received a grade of 3 or higher. We're very proud of that achievement. We've been able to maintain this high achievement while expanding the number of students in our program, which is a significant accomplishment. And this is also a real validation of our straight A grant initiatives, because this significant upturn since 2015 has more or less coincided with the implementation of the straight A grant initiatives as far as the instructional programs, technology, the redesigned rooms, so forth and so on. So it's a lot of good news. The AP Scholar Awards program recognizes high school students who have demonstrated outstanding college-level achievement through their performance on AP exams. There are approximately 7 levels of recognition in the Scholars Program, and this slide indicates the total number of mentor students receiving scholar recognition each year since 2011. Our scholar numbers have grown from 64 students in 2012 to 160 students this past school year. Again, significant positive growth is evident across time, and we're obviously very proud of our students in this regard. Our AP program is somewhat unique in that we are one of a handful of high schools that offer the AP Capstone Diploma Program. This innovative diploma program embraces cross-curricular studies and focuses on the development of students' academic skills rather than their command of specific areas of content. The program fosters research and analysis skills, the construction of evidence-based arguments, the ability to effectively collaborate with people and write effectively, as well as public presentation skills. We are strong proponents of this skills-based program that prepares students for collegiate-level work, and as you can see by the numbers here, our numbers have grown since we introduced the program at Mentor in 2016. So we're very proud of our AP trend data, and we attribute our positive performance to several variables. Most importantly, we have outstanding teachers and students here at the high school, and they are embracing effective instructional strategies to maximize performance. Our performance sheds much positive light on the effectiveness, again, of our straight A grant initiatives at the high school the past several years. In addition, we have increased our formal advertisement and recruitment of students into our AP program. We have expanded the administration of the PSAT to all students in grades 8-11 as part of the straight A grant. The PSAT is a type of a feeder system or almost farm system into a school's AP program. And lastly, we have increased the use of AP potential data, which is gleaned from student PSAT performance to identify students who may be a good fit for AP classes. So that's a brief summary of our AP program at the high school. Thank you very much for the chance to speak with you this evening. If by any chance you'd have a question or two, I'd be happy to respond to that. Otherwise, thank you so much.
What an impressive improvement when we see the impact of the straight A grant, because that was always the big question mark. Would that yield real results? And this is so exciting.
Sure. Absolutely.
Do we track any type of college credits earned for the AP do we follow the kids and?
As far as college credits granted by
because
colleges?
of that, yep.
Very good question. We attempt to do that. However, increasingly colleges do not take a blanket approach to how they grant AP credit. It's increasingly college specific. And so it becomes increasingly difficult to track, hundreds of graduates and how much AP credit actually translates into collegiate credit that's actually granted. However, on the transcripts for the students, it's listed as AP courses that they've taken, and through the college application process, the colleges are looking for candidates or students who are pushing themselves.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Well, Jim, I'd like to just add, it's a great program. Did you have up there that 7 area schools do this? We're one of 7, which means there's a whole lot more that don't have the AP program?
There are forgive me, Mr. Tuttle, I don't recall exactly where the number 7 was on there, but there are approximately, best of my recollection, about 10 or so Cleveland area high schools that currently run the AP Capstone Diploma Program. Forgive me, is that your question, sir?
Well, that's a point, but also I think that's fantastic, and it's really great that we support that. And I want to pay tribute to not only the students, our teachers, and their parents. Through my experience of being on the board now, I can't recall how many years, I have witnessed great teachers, great administration, great parents, and that combination really works. And by those statistics, there are parents who look at schools who offer these things. So know that the winning is also in attracting good students, good teachers, good families to our community of Mentor Public Schools. So I applaud each and every one of you who play a part in that, even though you may not have any AP students, but at some point you are working with great students, moving them forward, and it is greatly appreciated by not only me and the rest of the board. So thank you all, and I just want to add that it's exciting to me. Those are the statistics that demonstrate people will come to Mentor for an education for their students, their children. That's fantastic, because that's what, it's part of that as well, you know, bringing people to our community who want to be here as the choice for the kids who come to your schools. So, thank you. Thank you, Jim, for the program.
Thank you, Mr. McMahon. I cannot help but think that there is a correlation between the impressive data that you just saw and our careful and appropriate implementation of tech devices, but more importantly, the instructional shifts that our teaching staff has made over the years at all levels. So, you know, we look forward to this trend continuing.
Not to give Mr. McMahon any extra work, but some of the research out there on balanced learning is pretty limited, and this might be a great contribution to the professional literature on the effect of our program. But that's not an assignment, that's just a suggestion.
Oh, wait a minute, maybe we could do that. It's not sign Mr. Porter to assign it to him.
Thank you. Madam President and members of the board, I am recommending approval of agenda items C1 related to certified personnel and C2 through C5, all related to human resource matters. Included the items listed under 6C on the addendum that was at your seat when you arrived this evening.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Thank you. Madam President and members of the board, at this time it is our privilege to introduce our newest staff members to Mentor Schools. Every year we choose the best of the best, and this year is no exception. We are confident they will be outstanding teachers and staff members, and we are excited to have them join our Cardinal family. Mrs. Burnett will join me as we make the presentations.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Porter, and Mr. Wilson. This evening, I am very excited to introduce the 2018-2019 new certified staff members to you. Each year, each new staff member went through a rigorous application process and interview process that started this past spring. We are proud to welcome our new hires to Cardinal Nation. I'd like to first introduce Vince Austin. Yep, stay right here. Vince conducted his student teaching at Hilliard Bradley High School in a 9th grade classroom. He received his bachelor's degree from Capital University in the area of language arts in 2016. Last year, Vince was the building substitute at Mentor High School. This year, he will be joining the English department at Mentor High School and will be working with our 11th and 12th grade students. Vince also enjoys being one of our Mentor High School football coaches. Welcome to Mentor High. I would like to introduce Lindsay Burtis. Lindsay completed her student teaching at Garrity Elementary in Cleveland Heights, University Heights in a first grade classroom. She has completed long-term assignments at Lake Elementary, Streetsboro Schools, and North Olmsted Schools. She received her bachelor's degree from John Carroll University and is super excited to have obtained the 5th grade classroom teacher position at Ridge Elementary School. She enjoys watching the Cleveland Indians and is excited to be back with Mentor Schools. We welcome Lindsay back as a full-time staff member. Nicole Brzozowski. Nicole completed her bachelor's degree from John Carroll University and recently graduated with her master's degree from Ursuline College. She completed her student teaching at Grant Elementary in Willoughby Eastlake. Prior to student teaching, Nicole was a Mentor employee as a classroom assistant at CARES. Nicole is proud that she participated in a 3-day, 60-mile walk to raise money for breast cancer research. She will be rejoining the staff at CARES as an intervention specialist this year. Welcome to Mentor. Next, I'd like to introduce Emily Clark. Emily completed her bachelor's degree from Kent State University in the area of moderate to intensive special education. She completed her student teaching at Summit Academy in Akron, working with students in grades 9 to 12. She enjoys drinking coffee and is eager to begin her teaching career as an intervention specialist at CARES. You're going to need some coffee. Welcome to Mentor.
Welcome. Expecting great things.
Next, I'd like to introduce Jacqueline Colton Campman. Jacqueline completed her bachelor's degree from Middle Tennessee State University in 2013 and has completed 2 master's degree programs. She just completed her recent one at John Carroll University, where she obtained her school psychologist license. This past year, she completed her internship with Cleveland Heights University Heights School District. She was recently married, literally this past Friday. She will be the school psychologist at Hopkins Elementary and Orchard Hollow Elementary this school year. Welcome to Mentor. Next, I'd like to introduce Shelby Guy. Shelby completed her bachelor's degree from Lake Erie College in 2017. She completed her student teaching at Orchard Hollow Elementary and recently completed a long-term assignment at Ridge Middle School during the 17-18 school year. She enjoys traveling and hopes to visit every continent in her future. She will be joining the Orchard Hollow staff as an intervention specialist this school year. Welcome back. Next, I'd like to introduce Jessica Wren.
Welcome. Expecting great things.
Jessica completed her undergraduate degree program at the University of Toledo and completed her master's degree program at Notre Dame College. Previously, Jessica was employed at Monarch Center for Autism. She enjoys watching the Browns, Cavs, Indians, and playing volleyball in her spare time. She is very eager to join the Orchard Hollow staff as an intervention specialist in the structured language unit this year. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to introduce Sandy Campman. Sandy completed her bachelor's degree from Mercy Hirsch University and master's program from Kent State University. She has previous teaching experience with Chardon Schools and Downers Grove School District in Illinois. A fun fact about Sandy is that she performed health assessments in the Great Barrier Reef as a part of a graduate level course on inquiry and conservation. The staff at Fairfax Elementary is super excited to welcome Sandy as the 3rd grade teacher this year. Welcome to Fairfax. Next, I'd like to introduce Chelsea Lanise. Chelsea completed her bachelor's degree from Cleveland State in 2017, and she conducted her student teaching at Lander Elementary in Mayfield. Last year, Chelsea worked for East Cleveland Schools at Mayfair Elementary. She enjoys exploring new places, meeting new people, and she is ready to begin her teaching career with Mentor as an intervention specialist at CARES. Welcome to Mentor. Next, I'd like to introduce Sherry Magistrelli. Sherry completed her bachelor's degree from Kent State University and her master's degree from Ursuline College. She has previous classroom experience as a classroom teacher with Maple Heights and Euclid City Schools. She enjoys spending time with her family on the beach and is ready to begin her career with Mentor as the 4th grade teacher at Lake Elementary. Welcome. Next, I'd like to introduce Crystal Namick. Crystal completed her bachelor's degree from Cleveland State University. Last year, she completed her student teaching as an intervention specialist at North High School with Willoughby Eastlake Schools. This past spring, Crystal completed a long-term assignment at Shore Middle School. She enjoys traveling and is eager to begin her assignment at Memorial and Shore Middle School as an intervention specialist. Welcome to Mentor. Next, I'd like to introduce Laura Pankava. Laura completed her bachelor's degree from Ursuline College. Recently, she was a building substitute at Ridge Middle School during the 2017-2018 school year and completed several long-term assignments for us last year. This school year, she will be joining the staff at Shore and Memorial Middle School as an English language arts teacher, and we are really excited to have her back with us this year. Congratulations. Next, I would like to introduce Abby Robinson. Abby completed her bachelor's degree from Geneva College and her master's degree from the University of Akron. She completed her internship at Field Local Schools. Last year, she was at CARES as a speech-language pathologist. An exciting fact about Abby is that she's getting married literally in just a few weeks. She will be a full-time speech-language pathologist with us at CARES, and we were really excited to have her back with us. Congratulations.
Great, fellow zip.
Next, I'd like to introduce Chelsea Sadlick. Chelsea completed her bachelor's degree from Bowling Green State University. She conducted her student teaching at Longfellow Elementary in Fostoria, Ohio, in a kindergarten classroom. She's a proud graduate of Mentor High School and is eager to begin her teaching career as a kindergarten teacher at Fairfax Elementary this year. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to introduce Kate Schindler. Kate completed her bachelor's degree from Miami University and her master's degree from the University of Minnesota. Her student teaching was conducted at Middletown High School in Ohio. A fun fact about Kate is that she can solve a Rubik's Cube in under 1 minute. Wow. Previously, she has taught 2 years for the Minneapolis Public Schools and is eager to begin her teaching career as a French teacher at Mentor High School and Shore Middle School this year. Welcome to Mentor.
Expecting great things.
I would like to introduce Courtney Swihart, please. Courtney completed her bachelor's degree from Wright State University and recently obtained her master's degree from Lake Erie College. Last year, she completed her student teaching at Sterling Morton Elementary in an MD unit with us. For the last several years, Courtney has been a classroom assistant at CARES. She enjoys taking on new adventure, and she will be joining the staff at CARES as an intervention specialist this school year. Welcome to Mentor. Next, I would like to introduce Alicia Williams. We are really excited to welcome Alicia back as she was previously an employee with us. She left us for about 3 years and she missed home and she came back. So we are excited to welcome back Alicia to Mentor Schools. She received her bachelor's degree from Youngstown State University and her master's degree from Ashland. Previously, Alicia was a family and consumer science teacher with Mentor Schools for 4 years and recently with Warren, and she has now joined us back. We welcome her back to the Cardinal family as a family and consumer science teacher at Mentor High School, Shore Middle School, and Memorial Middle School this year. Congratulations.
Welcome back, expecting great things.
Welcome back.
We're going to take a 5-minute break at this time. Anyone that would like to leave may do so, or you're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting. Thank you.
Tom, there you go.
We're going to go back into our regular meeting. And did you have anything else, Mr. Porter?
No, that concluded my portion of tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will go into Board of Education report and recommendations. Under business, we need to appoint a delegate and alternate for the annual business meeting for Ohio School Board Association on November 12th.
So is this where I could recommend you to perform that duty again?
I'm happy to do it. I've done it every year since I've been on the board. Is everyone okay with that?
I am.
Yep.
Thank you. And a delegate, do we have a volunteer? Ginny, would you like to do that? All right, so we'll have paperwork we'll need to sign after the meeting.
Okey dokey.
Mary and Ginny. And second item is recommended that the superintendent employment contract and interims, first of all, I'm going to take a motion for the interim superintendent is going to resign his previous contract, and we're going to start a new contract for the superintendent's employment contract. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, please call the roll.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Madam President. Madam President and members of the board, I am deeply honored and humbled by the trust you have placed in me to continue serving as Mentor's superintendent. I sincerely appreciate the support you have given me this past year, and I value the work we have done together to continue moving our district forward in such a positive way. It has also been a privilege these past 11 years to have built outstanding relationships with, first and foremost, our incredible students and their families, our dedicated certified and classified staff members, and the greater Mentor community as a whole. In this role, I will continue to build on these relationships for the benefit of our 7,500 students. I must also thank our talented district administrators for their meaningful work we have done together, including those of you on the board office administrative team whose collaboration and loyalty is inspiring every single day. Most important to me is the love and support from my family. That's my wife Marie, daughters Jackie and Nicole, Michelle and Danielle, who collectively understand that the work I do for Mentor Schools gives me tremendous purpose in my life. And that purpose for me is greater than ever right now. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will speak on behalf of the board and saying that we're happy to have you on board, Mr. Porter, and we're extremely pleased with the job that you've demonstrated in the last year, and we look forward to your leadership in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item. Item number 3, we're going to table to the end, and we will move on to the legislative report.
We have an addendum item.
I'm sorry, do I need to
Yes. Yes.
say something about that?
We need the board to.
Okay. Oh, thank you. So there's an item that was added onto the addendum, item number 4. recommended that the resolution accepting the purchase agreement for the acquisition of residential property located at 6188 Seneca Road, Mentor, Ohio, for the Career Tech Program be approved. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Mrs.
It's
Bryant.
called Seneca Trail, by the way.
We
Oh.
will correct that.
We will
Thank you.
correct that.
Right?
Thank
Is
you.
that correct? Yeah, it's Seneca Trail.
Thank you. Yes.
Let's do this. My senior is all excited to start busting out that house.
All right, moving on to legislative report. Mr. Tuttle?
Thank you. Keeping right in line with career tech, President Donald Trump signed into law the reauthorization of the federal Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act. So, once again, I applaud the federal government. I mean, he wasn't the first one to do that, obviously, but he's reauthorized it, which is a good thing. I'm all about education and career tech combined. I think most of you all know that. So, moving right along, Governor Kasich signed into law several pieces of legislation. One, we talked about this earlier, but he finally signed it. House Bill 87 will require the Ohio Department of Education to credit funds returned to the state because of an audit of community school enrollment records to the school district from which the funds were originally deducted. So that finally closed that out, although wait for the money, right?
Right.
Dan?
Yes.
Wait for the money.
Yes, they're still recouping it from ECOT. It will be $300,000 to $500,000 if full restitution is made.
How much was that, Dan?
Between $300,000 and $500,000
For Mentor.
for Mentor.
Thank you, Governor Kasich, and all those people who said fraud was committed. Okay, moving the deadline, here's something good news for Dan, although it won't have an impact really on his performance. I know it won't. The bill also moved the deadline for submitting the 5-year forecast from October 31st to November 30th. So, Dan, I know that doesn't have an impact on your goals and objective. We're not going to move the bar for you. Also, he signed House Bill 318. I'll just cut to the chase on 318 in that House Bill 318 funds $12 million for competitive grants made available for fiscal year 2019. The funds are earmarked for training for SROs, school safety initiatives, and increasing the awareness of staff about mental health issues affecting students. So once again, move in the right direction. It's, I hope that's enough.
Except part of that bill takes away an elementary principal's decision-making in terms of discipline. It limits and eliminates suspensions and expulsions, which are very rare. But
Yeah.
sometimes that's the only way that a principal can get a parent to get the help that their child needs. And I really have a problem with politicians interfering in our day-to-day business.
I totally agree with you, and that's probably one of my continuing beefs with people getting involved in something they know of not, because they listen to a few people barking at them for campaign fundraisers. That's another topic. Sorry. But you're right, right. And then we talked, I think it was mentioned either the last 2 months ago about the changing in the credit card utilization. So there's 2 different scenarios that apply there. You can read the notes on that. Dan knows all about it. Which is one you favor, Dan? The cards being assigned to individuals or the cards being controlled by the CFO, treasurer?
We still like the ones that we have some control over so that we can ensure certain vendors are excluded from being able to use the cards and certain types of merchandise there. So we like to still be engaged to help give guidance and structure to ensure proper use of credit card.
So to institute that policy, you just need to do that, right? Make the choice, or?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. We
Well, I
do have
support
a
that.
board policy on credit card usage, and we're reviewing it now to see if any additional updates are needed. But it is convenience to many of our faculty and staff members to use. We just want to make sure there's structure around there so that there's no unintended consequences to using the credit card.
Well, that certainly sounds like the smarter scenario based upon the other one where the cards would be assigned to teachers, and then the teachers make the expenditures, and it's up to the teachers to turn in the reports and maintain the records. Should they fail to do so, they could end up being responsible to pay for those bills if they make the mistake in complying with the regulations of reporting the financial activities. So it's best controlled in the treasurer's office.
Paperwork on their
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, that was my last highlighted item. Turning it back to you, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, heading over to Chief Financial Officer's report and recommendations. Mr. Wilson.
I'll just add one thing to legislative activities. I'm pleased, and I shared with the board, the 20th and 24th of this month, I'll be representing school business officials in Northeast Ohio with meetings with our two lieutenant governor candidates, John Husted and Betty Sutton, and we will be advocating, as we have specifically for Mentor, just leave us alone and leave our funding alone, and express appreciation for the ability to recoup the money from ECOT, but still sensitive to the charter funding that occurs. So pleased that we'll have another opportunity to reinforce Tom's work as legislative liaison. My section, item 8 tonight, A through G, are presented as consent agenda items and would ask your approval.
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
We also have before you a resolution requesting authority to sell 5 unused school buses or unneeded school buses that now have maxed out in mileage ranging from 185,000 miles to 202,000 miles. We're required to declare we no longer need them, and because the cumulative value is estimated to exceed $10,000, we must do a public auction for these vehicles. While they are mechanically sound, unfortunately, in our part of the state with the winter conditions requiring chemicals put on the road, it's more the wear and tear on the undercarriage than it is the mechanical systems. It's a challenge to us. As the board knows, we fund 4 replacement vehicles a year to ensure that the fleet is serviceable and safe for our students. And tonight, we're asking for the opportunity to auction off these 5 buses.
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
And that completes my prepared agenda items.
Okay. Under unfinished business, we need to just continue discussion on our general fund operating budget reserve.
Yes, before we prepare an actual board resolution or board policy for distribution, last month under new business, we raised the topic of developing a policy on general fund reserve. As a result of that, the Board of Education had asked that, that we translate a 15% target operating reserve into number of operating days. We did provide information to the board on that and continue to believe that the 15% number represents a very common range within school districts nationally and here in Ohio. And in our case, 15% of operating revenue is the equivalent of 27 days of instruction. So if the board would like more information or wants more discussion, we can continue. If not, I would like to bring, for first reading, a policy to next month's meeting.
I think we're ready for the first reading.
I think so.
Anyone have any other questions or discussion?
And this will be phased in over what period of time, Dan?
We will work, the initial funding, we will work within the current 5-year forecast to do, and then the proposed policy is one that in years where we have general fund income exceeding general fund expenses in the current year, to the extent that the reserve dips below 15%, either because of the growth of income or some use of the reserve fund, that it would be replenished. So we will develop the specific initial funding strategies. We have some options available to us when that occurs, and I'll be able to provide more details for that.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, so we'll have Mr. Wilson prepare that for first reading next month. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Anything else on that? All right. Any other unfinished business? Any new business? Okay. Hearing of the public on any item? Seeing none? The board plans to go into executive session to review Chief Financial Officer's annual performance stipend and base compensation. This was an item that was moved under business. There may be an action following our discussion. I will entertain a motion for executive session.
So moved?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
All right, we're back in session, and I will entertain a motion regarding the Chief Financial Officer's annual performance stipend and base compensation.
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes.
Thank you all very much for the opportunity to continue to serve.
And I would like to thank you, Mr. Wilson, and your years of dedication and service here in the Mentor School District are commendable, and we look forward to the future and the collaborative relationship between you and our superintendent, and future success for the schools. Thank you.
And perfect audits.
Great.
Yes, continue that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Please call the roll.
Mr. Tuttle?
Yes.
Ms. Jisling?
Yes.
Mr. Buckley?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
Mrs. Briner?
Yes. Adjourn. Thank you.